I'll call September 12, 2022 Ira Township Planning Commission meeting to order. Could everyone please stand and face the flag and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, I'm glad to see you guys go do that.
Go ahead, roll call, please.
Michael Summers.
Present.
Colbert.
Over. Here. Yep.
Reese.
Here.
Tom Summers.
Here.
Vidrum.
Here.
Wall. Here. Wesley.
Here.
Lauer.
Yes.
And
Here. Okay, everyone's here. Next item would be the approval of the agenda. The only thing we have tonight is the one item, the public hearing for case 22-436, Untitled Enterprises. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Charles, motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Tom Summers supports. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
no, that's the agenda.
Oh, okay. Sorry, gentlemen.
Approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the July 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting. That was the last one we had. There was no meeting in August. Everyone had a chance to look at the minutes. Take a look at them again, and if there's any changes needed, please bring them to our attention.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from the July 11th, 2022 Planning Commission meeting as presented.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll support.
Support from Charles. Can we have a motion and support to approve the minutes as presented from the July 11th meeting? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Correspondence, we have 3 letters. They're pertaining to the case. So we'll read those letters into the record at the time when we have the public hearing. And Steve, would you like to go through your review, or should we have the applicant? Is the applicant here first? Yeah, okay.
Want me to start?
Yeah.
Okay,
Go ahead.
Good evening, commissioners. The applicant is Mr. Todd, M. Todd Enterprises. The location is South of Marine City Highway, west of Meldrum. The property size is approximately 60 acres. They're requesting a rezoning of land from agricultural estates conservation to I-1. The stated purpose of to develop the property was several industrial buildings. My review has on there a drawing showing the location of the property consistent with other properties in the area. Typically, when you review requests for rezoning, state law requires that any rezonings or zoning, in order for a community to do a rezoning or to have zoning, they have to develop a master plan. The master plan for the township was done last approximately 5-6 years ago, and at that time there was public input, several public hearings, and the planning commission at that time, as adopted by the township board, recommended that the property be master planned as industrial. That's one of the conditions of typically when you grant a rezoning request. The second condition of granting a rezoning request is typically consistency with the area. And you see on my drawing that I presented, there is industrial to the west and industrial directly to the north, with the exception of an agricultural parcel along the Marine City Highway. Both the west and the north are zoned as industrial, some of which is also zoned heavy industrial or general industrial. So the request is consistent with that area. Based on that, I'm recommending approval of the rezoning.
And Steve, would you, I just thought of one thing, so the public understands what the master plan is. Can you just give a brief description of what a master plan is?
Sure. A master plan is a general description of how the township expects to develop over the next 20 years. It's based on a requirement by the state law that says that you have to have a master plan in order to zone, as I had indicated before. What they do, master plan gives the property owner the idea of what he can or she can use the property for in the future. And it's basically a long-range guide based on public input.
And exactly what is the master plan? What is the planned use?
What, I'm sorry?
What is the planned use of the property?
The planned use for this property,
It's industrial.
yeah.
Yeah, but can we see where it's going to be accessed or where it's not going to be accessed?
Well,
We'll get the public comment.
we'll get to public comment in a minute. Thank you, Steve. Would the applicant like to go ahead and explain what the rezoning and...
Would it appear?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
My name is Todd Chartier, Mountain Todd Chartier. And as you all know, the company I own is Meldrum Chartier. We've been trying to buy this property for quite a few years because we all grew where we're at. I had to grow my business in Ira Township, next to the airport, which is approximately 6 acres. It's not easy to run your business from multi-yards 5-6 miles away. I have probably 12 people located on Ira Township that has to rotate back and forth daily. I want to move all my facility to Ira Township under one roof, under one facility. Mr. Socia, who I purchased the property from, which owned it for 53 years, decided to sell it to me. But he sold it to me in a contour that he knows the master plan. He knows the value, and he knew what the value was worth, and he knew I wanted it. And so I paid it for master use and for industrial use. Not that it's granted, but knowing what the master plan was public knowledge and all your maps and all your zoning planning. We want to grow our business in Ira Township. We love the township. We've been here since 1954. We're not planning on going anywhere. If that land was not purchased, we were thinking about relocating somewhere else away from a busy Marine City Highway, which is too busy for us. I really don't need to be on Marine City Highway because I don't need a frontage. We're industrial contractors. We work with other sources besides storefront property. But this came available, so we purchased it, and that's why I'm here today to grow our business in Ira Township and to move my facility out of Cotterville Township into this area. So that's our use. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, as I stated before, we have 3 letters here, correspondence regarding this case. Charles, since you are secretary, please.
Okay, so the first one here is from Gilbert Cohn. My family and I are owners of the adjoining properties, formerly known as the racetrack on Meldrum and Church Roads. Our property is zoned for residential use, and the proposed rezone request is for industrial. I'm opposing the rezone proposal because my future homeowners will object to an industrial park in their backyard, making my 80 acres worthless. Please consider how the change of this 60 acres to an industrial site will change the whole neighborhood. Sincerely, Gilbert Cohn. This one's from Raymond Warner. To whom it may concern, I have been a resident of Ira Township since 1978, and during that time, I've seen a lot of changes in our little slice of Michigan. And while I agree that We have to continue to evolve our community. I believe that the proposed zoning changes on Meldrum Road are not in line with the community needs of the master plan. We have plenty of vacant parcels in the industrial district in the township. I understand why Mr. Chartier wants to rezone this piece of land, but I don't see how it benefits any of the surrounding properties, much less the community. In closing, I would hope that the zoning board and the trustees would take a long look at this matter, at the master plan and how it applies to the many changes that are already taking place and are soon to be coming our way. We need to know that our elected officials are looking out for the best interest of the community and not just a few parties. Thank you for your time, Raymond Warner. This one is from Felicia Maizinski. I'd like to start with, I have lived on this road my entire life. I grew up at 6458 Meldrum and purchased my current home from people I have known my entire life. The main reason why I purchased my home is because of the lifestyle Ira brings. It is a quiet, small community that I wanted to raise my family in the same way I was raised. All my hopes for my family's future here is now at risk because of what is about to happen with this possible rezoning. The amount of traffic and work Chartier already began is already impacting our community. What concerns me is the parcel's truly intended use is just to store vehicles, not in use. Then why even change the zoning from agriculture? There shouldn't be a need. They are already storing their vehicles behind their shop on this parcel. It appears that the intended purpose is not being said, and we are allowing an industrial entrance on a residential road. It already impacts us that they started to bring the concrete and dirt that is currently being stored. The large trucks wear the road, and the washboarding is horrific. Who will be maintaining the road with the additional traffic? Has the township thought about the environmental impact this will have? Chartier removes environmental waste and even state on their website that one of the industries served is chemical. If they are going to be storing more equipment on Meldrum Road, what happens when our road floods every January? Are we now going to be at risk of soil contamination? What about soil and concrete they are bringing in to store here? Where is that coming from? Contaminated sites. Has anyone even looked into the environmental impact and the safety of our soil and water wells from this? The parcel has a direct runoff into Meldrum Drain that eventually dumps into St. Clair River. We need to ensure that their true intentions on this land, because of what we are seeing, is not being completely truthful. Lastly, my property value is likely to plummet if this were to happen. What does Ira Township want to become? When looking at current zoning, we are currently an agricultural-based township, with the exception of the strip on 26 Mile Road. But now we are allowing light industrial on a residential street. Is this just a segue to get to heavy industrial? I'm concerned of what our community is going to become and the risks at play. I hope we do not allow this parcel to be rezoned as light industrial and keep it intact as agricultural and keep our community as it is.
And before we actually get into the public hearing, this was published in the Voice. Date of publication was August 24th. 14 notices were mailed, none were returned, and you just heard the letters that we received. With that, we'll open the public hearing for public comment. And with the number of people here, I imagine the number of people are going to want to comment. So I'd like to give everybody about a 3-minute time frame to make your comments. Please be civil and address your comments to the Planning Commission, and state your name and address before you start speaking. Start recording, secretary, that's it on record. And did everybody speak? Did you already sign in on the sheet there?
Hi, my name is John Tucker. I live at 6075 Meldrum Road. First of all, I want to thank you for the Planning Commission to have this hearing and hearing us out. I want to thank all the residents in the room too for showing up to this hearing. I'm obviously in strong opposition to this proposed rezoning. The extent of public need must be balanced against the degree of intrusion upon private interest. This requirement has not been adequately met. There are more than adequate amounts of unused industrial property currently available along Marine City Highway without rezoning this parcel. To keep this decision legally defensible, this decision must be based on logical and sound analysis rather than personalities, preference, or the wealth of the property owner proposing this. Chartier has already made significant changes to the property, assuming they would see little resistance from the township, including burning without permit, the dumping of concrete, asphalt, and large amounts of soil, altering the grade of the area of soil, and adding a new driveway, all performed without consideration or permit. At the time of these changes, they had not yet made a formal proposal to the township, nor did they meet with township officials. And only after complaints raised by area residents were they forced to start playing by the rules and meet with the township engineers to discuss the changes they had already made. In violation of current zoning and Ira Township Blight and dumping ordinances. There has been no evaluation as to the impact of residential property values. There is a potential for this to appear to be spot rezoning. Now you cleared this up, you said it's two, and I'm mistaken in this case. The property under consideration is flanked by 3 side by residential agriculture, and again, I yield to the commission saying that it is only 2. Even if property is not immediately adjacent to the proposed zoning, this rezoning will undoubtedly reduce the value of adjacent residential property and poses a serious environmental hazard. Even if the property is not immediately adjacent to the proposed zoning area, property value will be adversely affected by increased noise, dust levels, damage to Meldrum Road through heavy truck traffic, environmental risks, and contaminated groundwater. Based on what I have personally witnessed, the township is not capable or unwilling to control the activity of Chartier. I can't imagine what Chartier will attempt to rezoning is granted. I fear that Ira Township officials will continue to turn a blind eye to their activity, and the area residents will pay the price. Now, the best course of action is for our local government to stick with sound planning arguments and act in the best interest of the majority of residents in making rezoning decisions and avoid the apparent favoritism shown in this case by denying the rezoning request. And I appreciate your time. The one question I would have for the board is, how many of you would want Chartier next to your property?
Thank you. Thank you. Who else would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Captain Cameron. I live at 6200 Meldrum Road, which is on the same, we're not far from the property at all. We're like almost bordering the property proposed to be changed. And I agree with this other gentleman. I'm just almost sick over the chance of what's going to happen to our property values and to our groundwater. When I first moved in Ira, our well dried up, and we just dug a new well when we moved, about 5 years after we moved in, and it took us, we dug 4 dry holes before we hit a decent water line. And now what's going to happen to that water? I also have a pond that I have grandchildren that swim in. We already been through a lot of changes in that area, and I don't believe that this is going to help Ira Township whatsoever, especially the houses and the properties right around the area. Thank you.
I'd like to say something about the roads. These trucks coming up and down.
What's your name, sir?
Sir, can you give me
Oh,
your
I'm
name?
sorry, David Cameron, 6200 Meldrum Road. I live right next to the racetrack, and this property's on the other side of the racetrack from me. But the road gets terrible sometimes. I don't know how many of you ever drive down this road. And these big trucks coming down there are making it worse and worse all the time. And I'm opposed to that. You know, there was somebody who was trying to get a petition going here a year or two ago about paving the road down, but I knew that wouldn't happen. There's too much vacant land down there. People aren't going to go for that. But that's what mainly I'm opposed about is they're going to be tearing up the road at dust and noise and tearing up the road. Really bad.
Okay.
And, you know, I bought this property 20 years ago hoping that it would kind of be a big portion of my retirement. And came close to losing it there a few years back and things got tight, but when I'm in there, now I hate to see it happen now that I'm getting to the point where I need it, you know.
Okay.
Thanks for listening.
Sure.
Thank you.
Who'd like to speak next?
I would. I grew up in this township.
Can you give me-
I'm 84 years old.
Give me your name.
Oh,
No, you don't have to.
That's okay.
Elaine Earhart, 6053 Meldrum Road. First house off of the highway. I've lived in this house over 50 years. My cousins lived in this house. What's going to happen when these wells all happen? We just put a new well in, $14,000.
Yeah.
Why? Because of Myers. Because they wouldn't listen to the underground screams. This is ridiculous. Chartiers can go anywhere, and the rule was at one time, nothing beyond Marine City Highway. So what is this doing? Going down Meldrum Road at 3 o'clock in the morning with dump trucks and banging, and the bridge there is going to go out again. I hope somebody falls in it. The drag strips put in culverts years ago, which were too small for the area. So you can't tell me nothing I don't know. This is ridiculous. There's plenty of ground. Let Chartier put it way over behind this place. Instead of driving trucks in and out of the road at 3 o'clock in the morning, big dump trucks, boom, 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 boom. This is ridiculous. I grew up in this town, I was born in this town, and I think it's going to, I hate to say it, horse shit.
Well said.
Go ahead, sir.
Dan Turk, 4495 Indian Trail, China Township, Michigan. I'm a China Township Board trustee. Me and Mr. Casons know each other from a different venue at our Township Hall. And coming here today to oppose this. Just because you can, doesn't mean you should. Think about that. This is 60 acres. This is just short of 1/10 of a square mile. This not only affects your 300 feet from each direction of your contacting neighbors, this is part of our community too. This is going to affect us. Mr. Chartier stated that he doesn't want his trucks on Marine City Highway, but I tell you what, as soon as they get up to the intersection, they're going to have to turn on Marine City Highway sooner or later. And a lot of these people being concerned about the groundwater situation and possible leakage from the trucks. I have a transcript here from Mr. Chartier during a hearing of the Department of Treasury on June 24th, 2021. And this is obviously his attorney's statement. Depending on the customer's need, the plan of daily activities for the tax period at issue and other delivering materials and upcharge of excavating and unloaded contaminated soil or liquid transporting into a waste site and performing these activities, the plaintiff's trucks and trailers frequently cross state lines carrying various times its own equipment and necessary the material and contaminated waste. It's sooner or later that these trucks end up back in Fairhaven or Ira Township. And this is going to be let loose on a 60-acre plot. A lot to think about with a high water table. Scary. Mr. Chartier already has 2 OSHA violations against him right now for safety and under his belt. And then we get to the trucks. This is in the past 5 years. Between speeding, overweight violations, and no brakes. Do you need that on Marine City Highway on a larger scale? I'll give this to you guys to take a look at. The printer ribbons start running out of ink, and if you look back, the more you look back, the worse it got. I'll give this to you guys to take a look at, but I hope you listen to your people, and as a past township clerk of China Township, the median age of China Township is 62 years of age. I don't know where Mr. Chartier would ever find the manpower labor to support any growth in this area. In Casco, in China, and in Kochville, it's pretty much the same. Just remember, folks, just because you can't, doesn't mean that we should. Thank you.
Going right in my front window.
Who'd like to speak next?
Janice Macy, 6269 Church Road. I have a different worry. I live across from a con school. And we hear that it's going to be a waste that's going to be emptied there. Who's going to monitor what's going in the soil? Do we have enough people in the township to go out there every month and monitor what's being dropped in? And if we don't, somebody said it's going to go into the river. Well, maybe it'll go into the air. Maybe it'll bother the school children. Who knows? Are we going to take a chance just to have another business in the area? I think we should think about the future. Sometimes something happens and it's 5 years down the road and horrible things develop because nobody cared enough to monitor what was happening. So please, before you let this go through, who's going to monitor what's going in the soil? Thank you.
My name's Paul Grimm, 6684 Meldrum. A lot of the questions have already been asked or stated, but what does light industrial zoning mean? Does that cover hazardous waste handling?
Steve, would you,
Want me to read a list of what restaurants?
yes, yeah.
Because that's basically what I think a lot of people are concerned about is the hazardous waste. I mean, that's his company, no offense, but that's what the company is. So, I was going to say also, the plan was for several industrial buildings on 62 acres. So there's still going to be a lot of vacant land on that 62 acres, depending on the size of those buildings. I don't know what the sewage handles in that area. I don't believe there is any. I may be mistaken. But that's something that would have to be looked into. I don't know how much hazardous waste is put on the property right now. Does anybody know? And I think that's something that should be looked into. And with all that space, you know, what are you going to do with it if you're not going to use it? So my question then again is, what is light industrial entails that handle hazardous waste?
Okay, Steve, you'll read the list of what's.
The uses permitted in the light industrial district include basic research, design, pilot, experimental product development, warehousing and wholesaling, trucking facilities, manufacturing, laboratories, storage, transfer, electric, gas, and service buildings, public utility buildings, water and propane tank holders, railroad transfer yards, storage facilities for building materials, sand, gravel, stone, lumber, etc. Central dry cleaning facilities, automotive repair garages, warehousing, storage of consumer fireworks, and other uses similar to the above.
So no.
I didn't really hear anything about hazardous waste. There's got to be some kind of a state regulations on what is allowed for hazardous waste. And will any of that be coming on that site? That's the question that needs to be answered. So,
And I would ask, under the plan or you came to the conclusion that you would recommend that based on your knowledge of that?
It's based on the master plan.
Based on the master plan and consistency.
Well, you didn't understand if it handled industrial waste or not?
We're not dealing with industrial waste right now, sir.
They do.
We're dealing with a rezoning,
Clean up industrial
rezoning of
waste.
the property right now.
But they clean up industrial waste. It's got to be a consideration.
Not a concern of the rezoning at this time.
So anyway,
There's got well. Where's our water coming from? Dot?
So I guess the question is, what is industrial waste, not just industrial waste, but hazardous waste, environmental waste, is that going to be allowed under that zone? It doesn't sound like it, so I would think that should be looked into a little more before a decision is made.
Well, anytime, correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but anytime a property is rezoned, the applicant has to come back with their site plan of what they're going to do. And then it gets into the details of what they're going to do. And there's zoning ordinances throughout our ordinance book that cover the performance standards of those properties and gets into that sort of thing.
Do we have an enforcement mechanism in the township for hazardous waste or environmental waste?
That's recommended by the state.
That's right.
But they would check on it or do something?
Absolutely.
But it still hasn't been, isn't approved according to the industrial, light industrial, so. All right, thank you.
All right.
Hello, I'm Martha Burridge. I live in Richmond, and I just attended a meeting of MAPE, and they're a government organization that is concerned with conservation and runoff, and they have 6,000 farmer members. What they were talking about was soil conservation, and they're teaching the farmers how to keep fuels out of getting into the water and pesticides, et cetera, that they use on their crops. Well, it's a voluntary program right now, and 6,000 Michigan farmers are part of it. But the point is what they're concerned about is they're making farms be, it's voluntary now, but it's going to be mandatory, that the farms are environmentally verified, and there are environmental risks of fuels, pesticides, runoff, manure management, forest, and then they're worried about forests, wetlands, and habitats, protecting the air, the water, and the soil. Now, what they did a conservation needs assessment survey. It hadn't been done in 20 years, and here's what they found out. The problems: uncontrolled commercial development was ruining the property value, not the property values, but was ruining our water quality, air quality, etc. And then poor water quality. So what they're concerned about is soil health in Michigan. They want to recycle the carbon, soil density, etc. But the main point that I'm bringing up here is that this is a government agency that they are telling farmers now that it's voluntary, but soon it probably will be mandatory, and they are very concerned with fuel runoff, pesticide runoff, and how it's getting into our water. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Who'd like to speak next?
My name is Maria Singer. I live on Church Road. I'm opposed to this rezoning because it's encroaching too far down off of 26 Mile Road. I'm tired of the Jake brakes already. I'm tired of the heavy equipment I hear at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday from existing businesses on 26 Mile Road. What is the ordinances on Jake brakes? What is the ordinance on heavy equipment when our start and stop times? What is the definition of environmental waste? Is asphalt, tailings, environmental waste? because there's a corporation right on 26 that has asphalt tailings higher than any industrial building. Has anybody looked at that? I'm tired of the traffic going up and down. I go up and down 26 Mile Road every day. I've been in this township for 30 years. Some of these businesses on the south side of 26 are Blight. They are off-putting by the way they look. And I'm tired of the noise. I'm tired of the traffic. I'm tired of the heavy equipment backing up and I have to hear the beep, beep, beep all the time on a Saturday. I'm tired of the dust. I'm tired of the corner of Church Road torn up from all the traffic of the heavy equipment. I'm tired of it. I've been here 30 years. And I like quiet. And I want to ask the same question the gentleman posed. Do you want this right next to your property? And do any of you live on Meldrum? Show of hands. Anybody? 26 Mile Road, show of hands. Church Road, show of hands. I have another question. Will any of the product or byproduct of Chartier operations be housed, stored, buried, accumulated, or accepted from second parties to be kept on property? I know this is zoning, but these are the questions I have. Define environmental waste for me. I believe Mr. Chartier operations are environmental waste. How much increase of traffic is going to happen? Do we have these questions? Do you have these questions to answer me right now? What is the blight and dumping ordinances for Ira Township? I'd like to know. Are you allowed to answer any of my questions?
I think you might be a little confused as to why we're here.
It's zoning.
This is zoning. This is
And I'm opposed because it's encroaching too far off 26 Mile Road for my liking. I'm opposed to the zoning. But I also know what happens to industrial. What happens to industrial? What is going to happen? The sheer noise. I saw what happened to 26 Mile Road. I've been here for 30 years. The sound alone from the heavy trucks. So you're talking about zoning from agriculture, residential to industrial. Well, some of these nice ones on north of 26 Mile Road, they're not noisy. They don't have heavy equipment going off at 6:30 on a Saturday. I mean, we're talking about rezoning to industrial. Well, what does that look like? Is that heavy equipment, or is that an electrical company that makes no noise? Is it the North Point where you're just storing things? Quiet, beautiful building, gorgeous. Love to have that all day in Ira Township. There's a big difference when we're talking about industrial and what that looks like. I don't like the noise, I don't like the traffic. Thank you for your time.
Who'd like to speak next?
Good evening, Jean Fiasco, 9527 Dixie Highway. I totally understand the meaning of today's meeting, but I feel like the cart has been put in front of the horse. The gentleman has already purchased the property at his own words at a great expense. Property's been purchased, the property has had some development on it. We haven't even agreed that the zoning would be changed, and he's already agreed. And he's already agreed that this is what he is doing with the property. So I'm confused. So I'm looking for the board to explain that to me. Is that something that can be addressed today?
A rezoning allows any of the uses, as I mentioned before. If the rezoning is approved or recommended approval by the planning commission, and then it goes to the township board who has final decision. If the rezoning is complete and the property is rezoned, then that developer or anybody that he sells the property to in the future has the right to develop anything that's listed in those permitted uses. At that time, they would be submitting site plans. Those site plans would show the buildings, the driveways, we could have asked for traffic studies, we could have asked for environmental studies. At that time, we would review it to determine compliance with various environmental standards, zoning standards, health department standards, and then traffic standards to determine the specific use. This is just the first step in allowing a development to occur. In fact, the application that was submitted only said for the future industrial, did not tell this planning commission, nor can we ask under state law, determine what their base is zoning based on what we think the use can be.
All right, the development that he's already done on the property, why has that been allowed without any changes to the plan so far?
That's an ordinance enforcement issue that would be handled administratively, not by this group.
And is that being addressed by another group?
It has not.
So has that been considered?
I'm not part of the
There
administration.
will be tomorrow.
Thank you for your time.
Good evening, my name is Michelle Adrello. I'm representing Gilbert Cohn. He submitted a letter that the commission read this morning. I just want to touch on a few points. Obviously, I'm not a resident here. Mr. Cohn is 87 years old, so I'm here to represent his letter and his interests. First of all, I think there's been a lot of discussion about this is just zoning. This is just the first step of many steps, and while I definitely understand and appreciate that, your recommendation goes far. And as was stated by the planner, once this is rezoned, any permitted use within that zoning, within the I-1 zoning designation is permitted. So I wanted to make that point. Another issue, a lot has been said about the master plan, and as you know, the master plan, consistency with the master plan is but one factor. And I think what you've heard here tonight is the second factor is equally as important, and that's the impact on adjacent land uses. So Mr. Cohn believes that this is going to negatively impact his property. The website of the business itself says that they have 24-hour services that they can go out at all hours of the night. It sounds from the residents today that is something that happens. So he's concerned about this increased traffic, the aesthetic harms, environmental harms, pollution harm. And I also want to emphasize that you're right, this is a rezoning. I know I mentioned that, but this wasn't a voluntary offer of a conditional rezoning, which was a possible option that the owner could have done. That's not what this was. This wasn't a variance request. That's not what this was. This was something that can change forever the life of the property for subsequent property owners. And in terms of the master plan, I know it was said this was consistent with the master plan, but I just want to cite to a couple of quick elements of the master plan outside of the actual land use amendment of 2008. If you go to page, I don't know if you have it in review, but 936, it states that the location of industrial areas must, and I want to emphasize, it says must take into account their intensity and the potential for nuisances that may be associated with that particular use type. So I think that's very important to consider. Another consideration which I think is important, and I'm quoting from page 936 of the amended land use plan that was amended on September 15, 2008, is that the master plan encourages industrial uses that do not detract from the overall residential character of the community. And I think that the general consensus is that this does detract from the residential nature of the community. The current zoning of AEC, the zoning ordinances says that that's intended to preserve the township's existing rural character. So I think that's important to also emphasize. I don't believe that this rezoning request is in the best interest for the public safety and welfare of the community, and I believe that it will detract from property owners from years to come. If you look at the map, this is the most southeasterly that the industrial will go, and I think that that's encroaching on the residential agricultural nature of this township. Thank you.
Who would like to speak next?
Good evening, my name is Tom Okoniewski. I live at 9160 Arnold Road. Been living out here for 44 years. And a lot of these people, I'm sure, remember the old racetrack that used to be out here. And the reason it was shut down is because of the noise and the excess of fuel that was always being burned by the fuel stores and stuff. It affecting the animals, your livestock out here. And ever since they've been closed down, Look at how many homes have built up around the area. And the livestock, the farmers, their cows are doing better, and the wildlife has returned like it used to be back then. Without the noise, without the fumes. I have driven large trucks over the road. And the smell from those fumes, I'm sure everybody know what the people are in Meldrum what we're going through. The smell, the diesel fuel, the noise. I've been through it. Thank you.
Who likes to speak next?
Steve Chuzanowski, 9205 Marine City Highway. So my business is adjacent to Mr. Chartier, and we are on the north side of this proposed rezoning. I'm in support of it. I've been there 27 years. I actually purchased my property from Mr. Chartier to start my business. And along the way, we've grown over the years, and we're out of space ourselves. So, we're hoping that he'll sell us a parcel behind us to expand our business. I don't see anything wrong with what he does. He's very clean and careful. I actually worked for Mr. Chartier over the years, driving truck and doing different work. And everything is, state mandated, and we follow all the regulations, if you're on this project. So I think some of the concerns are not supported. Very, very clean and careful, and a well-run company there. So I just would like to say I support this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Amato, 6253 Church Road. The first step in this rezoning should be the last step in my thoughts. I've lived in Ira since the early 90s. I like the quiet, I like the animals. We hunt, we fish, I have a pond, I have a well, I have kids, I have animals. I don't want, once it's rezoned, this is going to be out of your realm. No one's going to follow up as to what Mr. Chartier is dumping. We've been through different things years ago that no one follows up on. So I'm afraid you're going to lose control over this in a big, big way. No one's going to follow up on it. And it seems like there's lack of transparency as to what's going on with this piece of property. I guess that's it. So I strongly oppose it because of that reason.
All right.
Thank
you. Anyone else like to speak?
I just got a quick, Tom Chauvin, 6405 Hessen. Quick question to the planner. Everything's based on the master plan. And your master plan states that this property can be zoned light industrial?
That's how it's forecasted to.
That's what's in the master plan?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Because I know the other side of Hessen Road, Sadler's tried to get theirs zoned, and the township stuck to their master plan, and that was the end decision on that. It was because it was in the master plan to keep it agriculture. It didn't have it. Therefore, Sadler couldn't rezone it industrial. So everything's based on the master plan, and the whole township votes on the master plan, correct? At one time, we all voted on it, correct?
No, the master plan is adopted by the planning commission with endorsements by the township board. There were public hearings held, but there's not a vote by the public. And you are correct in the area.
Township board.
I'm sorry?
We voted everybody into the township board.
And that's what you could, yeah, absolutely.
But the master plan does state
the future land use on the master plan map, which is part of the master planning document, indicates the property as industrial. You are correct.
Okay. Now, does that master plan go all the way down 26 Mile Road, that far south, all the way through? Or is it zigzagging?
Copy up here, we can check for you.
No.
What does it do?
The
Because I know MGM went behind theirs farther, which would probably be almost adjacent to what his end property line would be, southwest property line.
What are you talking about, how far east?
How far south?
How far south? That's it, his property line.
To the quarter mile mark.
It goes all the way forward. Does that go all the
Mark
way,
between,
does that go from county line all the way over to Mayor?
No.
county line to Meldrum.
It stops at Meldrum.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Who'd like to speak next?
Again, the question is that quarter mile within the property line or beyond? The quarter mile south of the master plan, light industrial, that's what we were just talking about, right?
South of Marine City?
South of Marine City Road, you said it would come down a quarter mile.
About that.
Is this property north of that? It's south? Does it exceed the quarter mile?
No.
Becky Post, 9352 Arnold Road. I've lived out here since I was in the 2nd grade. We already have increased traffic of trucks up and down the Arnold Road corridor, which would be 25 Mile Road. And to add increased trucking, we already are having, I'm sure the officers here can tell you about the increase of traffic accidents that Marine City Highway's been having, and they've been doing studies on traffic studies on that as well. And I understand that that's not this part, but as a real estate agent, once you make it industrial, now you just open a can of worms for the future. So I think that is something that should not be taken lightly, and that I personally don't even let my kids walk. I mean, my grandparents live across the street. They want to go walk to grandpa's, they can't, because they have to worry about the semis flying down the road. So it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly, because they're using all back roads as cut-throughs.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Excuse me. My name is Michael Zorin, 5865 Marine City Highway. I'm writing to express my strong opposition to the proposed rezoning of property owned by Todd M Enterprises on Meldrum Road. The land is currently zoned as agricultural and definitely should not be rezoned as light industrial. Any type of industrial development of this land will be detrimental to the area. The overwhelming majority of residents in the area are completely opposed to any type of industrial development, as you've heard tonight. Changing an incredibly large piece of agricultural land to light industrial land will cause traffic and safety problems, destroy local wildlife habitat, and lower the property values of the existing community homeowners. Traffic and safety of pedestrians are major areas of concern. Traffic jams would occur when there is a need for people to turn onto Meldrum Road from Marine City Highway. Similarly, this type of traffic would occur even if the Chartier property on Marine City Highway allowed access to this large piece of property behind it. For the record, no form of widening of Marine City Highway would be able to correct this traffic problem when dealing with such an incredibly large piece of land. The intersection would routinely be blocked by traffic turning onto Meldrum Road from Marine City Highway and vice versa during the rush hours. This same type of traffic would exist even if the road was widened and there was access to the land from the current Chartier property. The local neighborhood traffic would disproportionately surge during morning and evening rush hours, causing traffic issues during critical times for the existing neighborhoods. This is something that needs to be anticipated as a consequence of approving a rezone to light industrial. Ira Township should not approve light industrial land development that creates or worsens a situation that will cause such a problem and interfere with plans of other municipalities in the area. Wildlife has been observed in the area, and any industrial development will destroy their habitat. Any planned industrial development of the property should continue or should consider the continuing impact on local wildlife habitat. During several discussions online, speakers explained that the proposed land has endangered several species, which should be investigated by the appropriate agency prior to approving development. Walmart wanted to place a store in the area years ago, but eventually decided not to simply because of the damage that would be done to the endangered species. Properties of homeowners are likely to go down in the area if light industrial development is allowed. Light industrial development on Meldrum Road is inconsistent with the development of what people desire in this area. I was disappointed Ira Township did not do a better job of notifying the public online of this request to rezone the land. Ira Township did notify people living within 325 feet of the property, but the only reason I personally found out about this request is because people notified me online. I am frustrated but not surprised at the information I have seen online regarding the potential plans of Chartier to include elected officials in this plan to rezone the land from agricultural to light industrial in order to build potential factories. Reliable sources online report that if this land is rezoned to light industrial, a factory creating batteries for electric vehicles would be made. What is particularly frustrating but not surprising is that elected officials such as County Commissioner and State Rep candidate Jay DeBoyer, Senator Dan Lowers, District Commissioner Jeff Bohm, and other elected officials would all have, quote, a piece of the pie regarding these types of factories. Evidence was provided regarding large donations of thousands of dollars from Todd Chartier and the wife of Todd Chartier made to various elected officials and fundraisers. There was one person who said, this may bring jobs to the area.
Mr. Zorn?
You're
going off, yeah.
Okay, so just to confirm, I'm not allowed to speak about that subject?
You're over your time limit.
Over the
He
time.
can have his 3 minutes.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, thank you very much. There was one person who said this may
Mr.
bring jobs.
Zorn, you're going off track on what we're here for now.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'll be finished. Thank you. Good night.
Anyone else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Sebastian. I live at 631 for Meldrum Road. Just had a question for you guys. Why are you so against us here? I mean, people don't want rezoning, right? If you want to talk, why are you so against it? Why don't you just let them talk and find out? I don't understand why. I mean, you work for this county or for Ira Township, right? Should we all work together? Why are you so against everybody here when they come over and talk?
We're not.
I mean, yeah, you are. I mean, just.
It's a public hearing, we're taking in public input.
I mean, yeah, but he wasn't finished.
He's going way off track on a whole bunch of other stuff that doesn't have
But
anything
it's
to do with
still-
the
It's all
agriculture.
Like, right now, you're gonna take the Sabbath for what? I mean, let people talk, right?
They're interrupting. They're interrupting you and they're interrupting me. We're here for the rezoning question. The applicant made an application to the township
Okay.
to rezone the property.
But everybody, 99% is against it, right? So
Yeah, that's what we're taking into consideration.
Okay, but.
Traffic, pollution, things like that. We're taking all that into consideration.
And a lot of people ask questions, you guys, and you guys just sit here, you guys don't answer any questions. There's some people asking questions, like,
We answer
how is this
some.
going to do? What's going to happen with this? And you guys got to sit here, you don't answer it. I mean, this is, I mean, you got to be prepared.
We don't have the details until he rezones the property. If he got it rezoned, they come with a site plan. The site plan would be reviewed against all the ordinances in our zoning ordinance. And a lot of them deal with a lot of the questions people have. There's other ordinances that the planning commission doesn't deal with, but like Mr. Casson said, state and federal questions on that, or regulations on environmental.
And another thing, he asked about Blight in 26. Who does stuff? I mean, why do you guys police it? Okay, nobody's policing the Blight. Like, she said some businesses are falling apart or something.
Planning commission doesn't do that.
So,
the township has an enforcement officer.
That's correct. There's a code enforcement officer in the township.
If there's a problem, if you see something you don't like, if you think it's blight, call the township. Call the township office, make the complaint.
Another one more question, like, you guys were approving this, the proposal, but the guy over here brought, 40 pages of, tickets of the guy that violated all this stuff. Did you guys find it out before? Did you guys doing the homework, or did, hey, this guy maybe we shouldn't give him a, zoning change? Because he was violating the stuff that he's doing right now, so why would we want to change, give him the, I mean, do you guys look, why was the one gentleman be able to find, 40 pages of, him speeding, violating all the stuff, and you guys didn't find this thing?
Because we're looking at the broad question of rezoning. Now, all the details of how he runs his business. That could come up in a different situation, but not here at this meeting.
All right, that's fine. I just don't understand why you guys are so against this. Nobody wants it. It's just, do you guys live in Ira Township or no?
Huh?
Do everybody live in Ira Township or no? So it's going to affect your property value too, right? Is your house going to go down in value? Do you live in Ira Township?
Do I?
Yes.
No, I'm a hired.
How about you? Do you live in Ira Township?
With all the commissioners within the township, that's why we're in the planning commission.
So everybody's value is going to go down in the house. Right? Do you want your value to go down in the house? Again, I asked a question, yes or no? And this gentleman doesn't want to answer.
No.
Right? Yes or no question. Do you want your value of the house to go down?
I don't think it'll affect my house.
But that's not the answer. I'm asking a question. Do you want your value of your house to go down? Yes or no?
Again, this is moving off track of the large rezoning question. All right. I understand everybody's concerns. We're getting into the details of what would happen if somebody had a site plan in front of them.
But everybody's going to lose that lives in Ira Township. Not just these people. I'm going to lose you. You're going to lose the house. Your value's going to go down, right? You don't think so?
No. If it was going to go down, they would be saying something different.
I don't think so. Anybody, business next to you, industrial business next to your house is not going to raise the value of your house.
No.
Right? It's just, it doesn't. Right?
Okay.
Anyway, I'm all set.
Anything else?
I'm all set. Thanks.
All right.
Am I allowed to ask one question? Sure. GPS Dixie Highway. Because the master plan says that however many years ago that was developed, that this is going to be eventually built into the light industrial, does that mean basically that all of what is being said here today is not necessary because what the master plan is basically what the board is going to go with?
No, I'll take everybody's comments into consideration.
May I?
Yeah.
The master plan is just one condition that the planning commission and township board uses to guide their decisions. The reason we have public hearings is to determine the public input in helping make the decision. There are also other circumstances, compatibility with the area, impact on surrounding area. Those are all taken in consideration by both the planning commission and the township.
When the decision is made, will the citizens of Ira Township be given some type of report or letter describing how the decision was made?
First of all, the planning commission here is a volunteer committee that holds a public hearing and makes a recommendation only to the township board. The township board doesn't have to side with the planning commission and can vote their own way. That is when the final determination is made and those meetings are public.
And when will that meeting be?
It depends on the action today of the planning commission, what they decide to do, whether they decide to take action today, and wait for possible, for additional information or whatever that decision be. We'd let you know.
Okay, I only found out about this meeting today because somebody shared something with me on Facebook. Will the meeting be made public to all Ira Township residents?
It'll be posted on the website.
Posted on the website, so we have to watch the website?
Or call the offices.
Thank you.
The state dictates the process in which notification can occur, and that is within all properties touching it within 300 feet. That's where the notice goes.
have another question too. Can this be put on, like, table, this rezoning until petitions get started? Because these people that are opposed to it represent a small fraction of Ira Township, very small. 90% of the people in here do not want it, and I bet you $1,000 if all of us band together and get petitions and go door to door in Ira Township, most people are not going to want this.
Mr. Chairman?
So can this be tabled, is my question.
Well, it certainly can be tabled, and that's up to the planning commission.
Okay.
There is a process under state legislation that says if once a rezoning is either approved or denied, it's published in the paper. But within 30 days, the aggrieved parties have the right to have a petition.
Okay.
And it's a certain number of signatures based on the last governor's election, and they have to be provided to the township board within a certain amount of time. If those signatures meet the number required, then the township is obligated to place the issue on a vote of the people at the next election, whatever that might be, governor, school, whatever.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Anyone else have anything?
I just got one last comment. Echoing back to your master plan, and I read it a few days ago, one of the things it says is the township, this township, desires a 50% balance of industrial and residential. Allowing a 60-acre plot or 1/10 of a square mile would definitely upset that balance. That would pretty much contradict your master plan. And if you allow Mr. Chartier to have this rezoned, you kind of start off on a slippery slope. Because once you've allowed him to rezone this, if he comes back with the site plan, and you say, oh no, you can't do this on your site plan, well, hey, you already allowed it to be industrial, what can I do with it? He allows him to challenge this place legally. Something to think about. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I got a question. 8779 Dixie Highway, business owner. So as a zone agricultural, right, currently? So what's opposed to him or the previous owner or a new owner taking it and constructing a building on it and running semis out of it and running farm equipment out of it? That's what it's zoned for, right? He can run a business out of an agricultural piece of property, right?
A farming business.
Yeah, a business.
Farming business.
Yeah, a business, yeah, a farming business, yeah, a business.
Not
A
an
business in
industrial
general,
business.
right? What's that?
Not an industrial business.
I understand that, yeah, I understand the concept of it, I get that. So my question is, I mean, does it restrict him to have X amount of pieces of equipment on a piece of property?
As it is now?
Every question to agriculture. As agriculture, does it limit him how many pieces of equipment he can have on a piece of property? It doesn't. Not agricultural, it doesn't. It doesn't restrict him.
Running a farm, correct.
That's right. Does it restrict him to have silos, to have buildings, to have pieces of combines or conveyors or different things like that on a piece of property? No. So if he was to leave it the way that it was and he wanted to farm 30 acres of soybeans on, which I think he has soybeans on it now, I don't know, but if he was to leave it the way that it is and construct the buildings on it and have 15 semis out of it because he wanted 15 semis out of it, I guess I understand all your guys' concern. I totally get it. But if we look at 26 Mile Road and how it has developed in the last 10 years only, we've got 2 hospitals down the street, right? It's not going to stop. 26 Mile Road is going to be M59 in 15 years. It's in the plan. It's in the master plan of the state. If you look it up, it's in the plan. It's implanted to expand it, to make it just like M59. So you guys have to look at that, and I understand that you guys are upset about it. He is doing a little teeny tiny thing. Sorry, I'm addressing, but these people are upset. And they have rights to be upset. He has a right to be upset. They have a right to be upset, but you have to also understand that he can also go in there and put up buildings and facilities and do those types of things as it's zoned currently. And I understand light industrial, I've looked at different pieces of property to purchase and they're zoned agriculture, and I didn't buy them because I needed to make light industrial. But, it's just, it is something that he can do, and obviously not run ML Chartier out of it, but run Chartier farming out of it. And if there was already a farming business there currently, I mean, he can still have asphalt millings back there, he can still have semis back there, he can still have bulldozers back there, he can still have all that stuff, I mean, it's just, I'm for it. I mean, obviously, I'm a business owner as well, and I understand what he's trying to do and as he's growing, but that's also understood too. I mean, you guys have concerns as well. I mean, but the property currently can still pretty much sustain what he's trying to do now under a different farming name, right? I mean,
he'd have to meet all the agricultural AEC zoning ordinance.
Well, he would have to follow the agricultural.
Right, he'd have to follow the ordinance.
Well, for sure, but geez, that's even almost looser than an
He'd
industrial.
have to be a certified farm under the state agricultural department.
Very, very simple. Very, very, very simple to do, right? I mean, in the big picture of things, I mean, you guys, I understand that there's a concern there, but you have to understand that there's 2 ways to look at that. And it's, you have to be open-minded with it. It's more tax money. Todd has always kept an immaculate piece of property. Every one of his pieces of equipment are up to par. Geez, well, Pete's, I don't think he has a 3-year-old piece of equipment out there. So we talk about pollution and different things like that. With the dilution, with the DEF now, with the diesels and all that stuff. I mean, he's one of the cleanest guys that run around here. I mean, it's obviously, it's very obvious as you can see his stuff around there. So I'm in support of it.
All right, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to address this. 26 Mile Road is not Meldrum.
Amen.
Right. Meldrum is always...
Your name, sir, for the record?
Oh, Charles Lacoste, 8712 Arnold Road. I mean, most of the people within 3 miles of this thing have already spoke their piece. I don't know, granted you're a business owner on 26 Mile Road, great, that's 26 Mile Road. This is an agricultural neighborhood. It's not Hall Road.
Address us.
Sorry, it's not Hall Road, it's not 26 Mile Road. It's a gravel road, it's agricultural and residential. Why we would want to change it to industrial, I get it, a quarter mile off of 26, but that should be frontage from 26, not frontage from every road between here and county line. It's farmland, it's residential, it's not industrial. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Does light industrial require sewers?
No.
It does not?
No.
It allows for a septic type of a system?
Yes.
Obviously, the bigger the facility, the more complicated the system has to be.
Absolutely right.
Because I know, from what I remember, Ira, Elginak, and Clay share the one wastewater plant, and there's a limited amount of growth capacity for sewers. I think we're pretty close to hitting the capacity.
Ira has quite a bit of capacity left.
Oh, we do have?
We do.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. But that's was my concern too.
All right.
Thank you.
We covered a lot of different topics, and we've been going on a long time. If anybody's got anything new or another topic other than what we've already covered.
Mr. Renner, I just have one question. Once this is zoned, though, it's zoned, correct?
There's no going back.
There's no going back.
Well, we can petition.
30-day petition.
That's correct. You are correct.
Okay.
Unless the...
And we do the
Unless
real
yeah.
process.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Or if a future property owner decides to change it again.
Yeah, exactly.
Anybody else, anything?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Okay, we have a motion from Todd Lower to close the public hearing.
Support.
Support from Kathy Wong. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, what we'll do now is discuss it. We'll take your comments into consideration. Y'all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Once the public hearing, just close the public hearing, we're not going to take any more public input. We got a lot from you, and appreciate your input. We do have to finish up the meeting, so got a lot of input from a lot of people. Any questions? Discussion? Yes, Kathy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for Mr. Chartier. When did you purchase the property?
I purchased the property probably over a year and a half ago. It was on a land contract. And the land contract, I believe, had to be paid off by this last May 1st. So it wasn't probably in my name until after that land contract was paid off, which is the 1st of May of 2022.
Anyone else got any questions, comments? Yeah, Charles.
So, for the master plan, when this property was actually identified as being, for when the property was identified as being intended as industrial use, do you have the date when that was?
It was 2008, and they reaffirmed a couple times since, at least once since.
Anyone else got questions?
I think, in the absence of a site plan, just the imagination's going to run wild. The traffic seems to be a big concern, and I know most rezonings that would result in more intensity. Rezoning traffic study is part of the package, except in cases where it isn't in conformance with the future land use plan. Is that correct? So that might be why we did a traffic study for this particular submittal. One thing that strikes me in particular in the light industrial district in our zoning ordinance is whose external, reading right from here, whose external physical effects are restricted to the area of the district and in no manner affect in a detrimental way any of the surrounding districts. I think we've heard a lot of that from the residents nearby who feel that this will my, I guess, question to our planner, what detrimental effects are generally referenced in such a language in the zoning ordinance?
Well, it's sound, noise, vibration, those kind of things, traffic.
Okay.
Yeah, but those all dependent on the use, and we don't know the use yet. That's one of the issues.
And that's when we get into the performance standard ordinance.
Of the site planning, if we get that far. Yeah, correct.
Anything else?
And then just one other question, I guess, building on one of the comments we heard about what is permitted in the AEC district. Presumably, if one were to build up a farming operation with 60 acres and build silos and all this other equipment, are there site plans for farms that come before this board, or?
No, farms are exempt under state law, so the Farm Act.
So you can just build silos and?
You can without our building permits, yeah. If you're a bona fide farm in the state. The other uses that are allowed in the agriculture districts are places of worships, libraries, community buildings, schools, stables, nurseries, and similar uses, it says.
Anyone else got questions, comments, concerns?
Sorry, did you ask the question you answered? So, sir, what is the intended use that you have for the property?
To extend our business that we're doing now.
Which is?
Which is excavating work. I'm a hazardous waste transporter, like everybody's talked about. I build roads for the state of Michigan. I build roads for Ira Township. I do a lot of hydrovac work for the utility companies. I'm probably not going to keep the whole 60 acres, to be honest with you, but I have to go through this process first. I'm planning on selling it to the neighbors that are shortfall next to us, like Steve Tusanowski, which he's out of room. Maybe Bob Carey or somebody else. I mean, as you guys know, it goes quite a ways back there, but I have to go through this process first before I can do a split or sell it off, right? Or, I mean, it'd be no different if I came in here today, asked for 800 lot subdivision. They're all gonna drive cars, they're all gonna build buildings, and they're all gonna make smoke, so it's what use you guys want it to fall under, but I need to expand. I said in my piece about 10 acres would be nice, 8 acres to expand out of Connerville, put it all under one roof. I can control my employees better, I can control the atmosphere of my repairs, make it easier. So that was the need and the reason. I know this is not the board to talk about, County Road Commission, and if there's gonna be access, or I gotta put a light in at Meldrum Road, or whatever, they might not even grant me access to Meldrum Road. So we're so far down that line, it don't matter, but that's all gotta be done through the Road Commission and through everything else. The culvert expansion, the culvert that was put in through permits through St. Clair County Road Commission. That's all been done there by their laws and their rulings. They knew exactly what I was doing, but I'm sure there's other things that have to come into play. It goes farther.
Anyone else?
Is this business somewhere to grow some?
Yeah, Steve's a large trucking company. Steve used to work for me. Steve does a great job, but he has a crushing operation. He brings in material constantly and crushes it and resells it. It's a recycle facility Steve has. But I think Steve might even be in an H1 district maybe, isn't that H2?
I'm not sure.
I think down there, it might not be, but you know, he has trucks coming and going, and scales coming and going because of his excess, so.
Anybody else?
A motion?
Yeah, think about, different options of motion. We could recommend approval to the township board, or we can recommend denying the approval to the township board, or we could table it and go over comments more in depth if you want. It's all up to us.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot presented here today that all of us weren't aware of probably. There are the letters that I think we need to consider and evaluate, but there's also Mr. Chartier's side of it, who has bought property based on a master plan that says that he can use that property for the intent that he would like to use it for. So I think the board really needs to weigh all those things. And I think to try to make a decision tonight would be a little premature.
I agree with that.
So I make a motion to table.
I can do that.
Right, Joyce?
Alright, so regarding case 22-436, Untitled Chapter LLC request for rezone of parcel 74-23-004-2007-000. It's all written down. From agricultural estates conservation ABC to light industrial. I'd like to move to table this case to allow the planning commission to further consider information gathered tonight, in addition to any other information that can be determined to be relevant to the case.
Okay.
I'll support.
Eric supports. Okay. Anybody need to have the motion read back? Everybody understand the motion? Go ahead.
Michael Summers?
Yes.
Colbert?
Yes.
Freeze?
Yes.
Summers? Tom?
Yes.
Ingram.
Yes.
Wall.
Yes.
Wesley.
Yes.
Muller.
Yes.
Inman.
Yes. We have tabled the case to consider the input that we got tonight. Just so everybody understands, we have held a public hearing. When we reconvene after, and go over all this, then, again, there's no second public hearing. This was it. It'll just be the planning commission going over all your comments, taking into consideration all the input that you gave us. Just so everybody knows. All right.
What'll be my next move then? Do we to hear back from you within 30 days or 10 days?
Well, our next meeting is next month in October. And,
It wasn't tabled to the next meeting, though.
Oh.
It was just tabled, so we'll have to determine when to bring it back.
oh, okay. And we'll contact,
I don't know if there was intent, if you wanted to amend the motion to table to the next meeting, or until we get the information.
Let's gather the information and we can set it on the agenda.
So we'll notify you, Mr. Chairman.
okay. We got to vote yet.
What's that, sir?
Oh, we already voted.
Yeah.
We voted already, right?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, okay, we already voted. That's accurate, okay. All right. Next on the agenda is potential zoning ordinance amendments.
Steve had prepared some stuff. I don't, do you have handouts or do you want to?
I think we should hold this off.
Okay.
Because of the length of tonight's meeting.
Yeah.
A couple of them we want to get into some in-depth discussion on, so I suggest that we hold off. It's not imperative that we have it tonight.
Okay, all right, great. No unfinished business. Okay, public comment. Anybody from the public have any further comment? Okay, if not, go on, report from ZBA member. I'm gonna lay us on to the ZBA, and we did not have a meeting last month, so I got nothing. Township board, anything? All right. Miscellaneous items, election of officers. Did I do that? I'll hold that till next month.
Yeah.
Okay. Questions of commissioners to the board? Anybody got any questions? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Charles, motion to adjourn, is there a second?
I'll support.
Tom Summers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.